Joining us to shed more light on the commemoration of World Teachers' Day is an education consultant and a teacher trainer, Mr. Ogbitse Oritsuwa. You're welcome to PTV Primetime News.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So now, really quick, has the world commemorate World Teachers' Day with the theme empowering teachers and teaching in freedom? What comes to your mind?
Well, I think it's very apt that the world picks out today to celebrate teachers, mostly in a country like ours where the profession is really quite noble and it's not really about the pay or the take home, where it's essentially about the passion and commitment of a few people that, regardless of all manner of conditions, wake up every day quite early, I must add, quite early, I must add, to set out every day to impact a generation, and sometimes not with much gratitude. So I think it's really worthy of note that the world is coming together to celebrate, I think, the most fantastic and awesome people anywhere in the world.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on now. The importance of teacher to a nation cannot be overemphasized. Now, where do you think Nigeria as a nation is missing it, especially when it comes to early primary education, which we know is the bedrock to tertiary education?
Well, I think that fundamentally it's important that everything about Nigeria has become tribalized, ethnicized in such a way that we cannot forge a unified national goal for our education. And I think that at primary level, regardless of our politics, our sentiments, I think one thing Nigeria needs to get essentially is that one unified goal for our primary education. See, every country has to have an educational policy that drives the daily teaching and learning process for every child, regardless of social strata, ethnicity, religion. And I think that that's where we miss it, because if you go to different locations, regardless of the document that we have claimed to formulate, you see different mentalities, different ideology, different structures. If I don't want to go into the dichotomy between private and government education, I say that Nigeria is the most unequalized, if there's a word like that, in terms of different children getting different quality of education. Even, in fact, let me use this Abuja as a case study. You cannot compare even within the government circle, I must say, and I throw this out boldly, you cannot compare the kind of education a child who is in an LA primary school in Wuse is getting with the one that a child in Guagua is getting. It's just not the same. So it's so uneven that until we come together and say, regardless of whether you are in my village in Delta State, in Oreju, or you're in Sokoto, or you're in Lagos, that there is one unified structure and that we can have a predetermined outcome, then we'll just be joking.
Okay. So that's a good one. So now, you've spoken about the different levels, the government, secondary school, and all of that. Okay, so moving on to professionalism. Yeah. Now that's like a major burner in the educational system. We realize that we don't have professional teachers in Nigeria. So how do you think that can be remedied?
I actually do disagree, quite frankly, that our teachers are not professional. I think Nigerian teachers are one of the brightest, they're one of the most committed. I've been teaching for close to 15 years.
Okay, let me come in. Why I made that comment is because, okay, you've seen different types of teachers. Now we have, I talked about non-professional teachers. We refer to teachers, most, especially those in private schools. They don't have that passion for the job. You find, my mom is a teacher. Okay. And then she teaches in a state school, and she has that level of excitement and joy when she realizes her students have passed. But you don't find that zeal and level of professionalism in a teacher in a regular private school who's just teaching for the money and all of that.
Yes, I think that there was a time that I would have agreed with you that teaching was not as professional, because a lot of young people saw it as a top gap measure to something better. But as somebody who started teaching at the age of probably 21 and who has taught close to 2 decades, I can boldly say that we do have passion, we do have professionalism. However, the factors sometimes that would ensure that there is proper motivation is not present.
It's not present,
and
okay.
you know, any system that is not adequately rewarded, I think one of the things that you have to follow in the Nigerian context is that every profession, even our senior lecturers in the university are complaining, doctors are complaining, because the reward system has not been arranged in such a way that you don't feel rewarded. As somebody who has given my youth to an educational system, I don't even feel adequately rewarded enough. And like you said, the only thing that keeps me going is that light I see in the eyes of my students when I've had a breakthrough moment, or even that light I see in the eyes of teachers when I train them that they can actually do better. So I think if there is a, whether in private sector, whether in government sector, or if it's repackaged, I'll tell you, when last did your mom sit in a class with AC talk less of a fan rather than an AC? So you ask her those questions. When last did she have all her textbook present before a session started? When last did all her parents in her class ensure all her children had the right textbooks, the right biros, the right notebooks? You know, all those things are what makes the teacher's job easy. You have to give us the environment that helps us express ourselves. And I make an assertion that some of the brightest minds I have ever seen nationwide are in the classrooms.
Yeah, that's true.
They are in the
classrooms, actually. And
they are in the classrooms. It's just that because of the mentality that we have evolved with, you don't quickly see it. Some of the brightest people I've seen, I mean most creative people, you need to walk into an average school, you find everything. You find this person with a little bit of medical knowledge, the
creative ones, all of that, yeah.
I actually do meet teachers who read all the things, but are awesome, creative, artists, musicians, you know, that's where everything lies. And that's why when our kids go outside the nation, you guys don't give us a lot of commendation for that. You come back and say, oh, our children go abroad and they are the best. But you forget that somebody taught them here.
And give them that foundation.
That foundation for them to go and excel. So I think we're professional as much as the environment allows us to be.
Oh, that's a good one. Thank you very much. So moving on now to student-teacher-parent relationship. What's your scorecard for the Nigerian educational system?
I think this is where, honestly, I have to be a bit hard on everyone. I think everyone can do a bit better. I think Nigerian educational system has failed in terms of our final assessment is no longer predictive. I imagine as a child who used to write WAEC and NECO and study for them, you know how I'm sure if you remember how that process was. It had some more integrity than it had today. There's too much pressure on parents to pressure the school to ensure that children comes out with results that they probably cannot defend. There's too much pressure on the school because of the fees they charge, mostly in the private sector, to ensure that the children's results no longer reflect the position that they actually have in terms of knowledge. I think there's too much pressure on the system to produce unrealistic results. I think everybody needs to be a bit more, and that's where I would also fault the school and the educational system. I think we need to create an assessment system that is that does not place too much dependency on one exam wins or JAM, WAEC, NECO. I think we should have a more transcript system. You know, that, you know, a child goes through secondary school from GS1 to SS3, and you now base his whole assessment on a 1 month exam, which he could be sick, he could be having emotional trauma. And I think if we just say, what was your average score in GS1, GS2, GS3, SS1, or even if you ignore junior secondary, just senior secondary, you look at it holistically, you will see the child's strengths, his weaknesses. It won't hide because the grades will show you a pattern. But by the time you place that whole emphasis, you put pressure on everybody, the teacher, the school, the parents. So that's why we cannot curb examination malpractice until we make our internal exams that school conduct have more probative value, have more predictive and assessive value. That's the university in Nigeria says. And I think a lot of private universities are doing this already, but I'm talking about the federal and state universities. Rather than tell me about JAM, rather than tell me about WAEC, rather than tell me about post-JAM, let the child's whole stay in school count for something.
Oh, that's a good one. I must say, you truly are a teacher. you remind me of my mom, so I really appreciate
Thank you.
that.
I hope my kids see that.
They need to. So finally on the news tonight, the Nigerian educational system. Would you subscribe to a declaration of a state of emergency in the Nigerian educational system?
Wow, that's for me. It's the Nigerian method for everything. Declare there's a state of emergency in security, there's a state of emergency in medical. In fact, let's just declare a national state of emergency so that we know that we are running a state of emergency government. I don't necessarily agree that it's like any system, it has its weaknesses, it has a flaw. And I normally say that I am a product of purely Nigerian education. Product, purely.
Pure.
In fact, I like to add, for those who are overly critique of the Nigerian system, that I'm not just a product of Nigerian education, I'm a product of public Nigerian education.
Okay.
From primary to probably postgraduate.
Okay.
So I don't have, and I don't think I'm doing so badly. So I don't think it's really like we need to just pick it all up and throw it up in the dustbin. I think we need to fix and tweak certain areas. And I think it's about bridging the gap between the kind of education the poor receives and the kind of education that the elite receives. I have given elite education for quite a number of years. And I know the kind of, I'll give you just a scenario, a humorous scenario. If you walk into an average government private school, the worst computer lab, you will see 20 computer labs, a computer teacher, and they have progressed from this is a CPU, this is a mouse, to robotics, to programming. Actually doing it. You know, the children are creating websites, they're creating apps, and you walk into a government school and you see the curriculum and it says, show me a PC, show me a mouse, show me a CPU. And these are two children in the same country that will compete in the same labor market, that will compete for the same jobs, and they're getting two different quality of educations. And like I made earlier, not just even in the government sector, I would have called names, but this is national TV, so I'll be a bit more diplomatic. Even among secondary education in this city, government giving education, there's clear dichotomy. So until we make conscious effort to bridge that gap, and I think I will give an old solution.
Okay.
Every politician, send your child to the school,
public school
that you are constituency over. If you are a senator, let your child go to the school that is in your constituent. If you are a governor, let your child go to a school within your state. If you are a president, you are giving you are a father of the nation. Spread the love. Let your children get the same education, because I'm a parent. And I'm an educationist. And one of the things I say, and funny enough, I met a colleague and we re-echoed that some 2 days ago, that one of the things any educationist knows is true, is that you don't want your child to have less quality of education than the one you are offering. So if they're sure of the Minister of Education is sure of the quality of education he's providing to the citizenry,
then his kids should
give your kids the same education. Then when they come home and at just 3 they cannot read, then see how you feel.
Okay. I must say I really enjoyed my interview tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on PTV.
It's a pleasure, and happy Teachers' Day to everyone who wakes up 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock to go teach other people's kids. Trust me, your reward is not just going to be in heaven. God is seeing everything.
Amen. We really need to appreciate teachers more.
Yes, we do. We really need to.
All right.